What is mine to do? That is what I'd like to speak to you about today. And as part of that, I would like to share part of my journey because it's definitely relevant. You see, I was raised in the Baptist tradition. And as I was young, my parents used to say I was a questioning little child. I had lots of questions. I read everything I could get my hands on, and especially the Bible. As I learned about science and history and other cultures and religions, something seemed missing to me. It seemed like there was a missing piece with all the people in the world. It didn't seem like there was only one way to salvation. Well, a woman in the church noticed this in me and all my questions, and she took me to a unity service when I was a teenager. And the message resonated with me. It was about love and embracing all. It was a way of life. Well, I knew deep inside that I had a calling for something more. Yet I didn't quite know how it would manifest itself. Because at the time in the Baptist church, they were not allowing female ministers. So I went to the AME church, and for those of you who don't know, it's African Methodist Episcopal, covering all the bases. And I became a minister, and it was divine. I felt I was in my space. I had all the gifts that I was using and the skills I was learning in my job. This was the place for me. Well, as fate, destiny, divine intervention would have it, whatever you want to call it, it was indeed not the place for me. You see, I was rejected because of my beliefs and my lifestyle. I was rejected and I was devastated. I went into the dark night of the soul, and it was very dark, and it was more than a night. I lived in the wilderness and in the desert of despair and depression and anger. I was asking God, how could this happen to me? I was willing to give my all and serve. So I turned my back on everything I knew, and I wandered in that wilderness. Yet there was still a nudging. There was still something in my spirit, a hole, a void. So I began to cry out in that wilderness. I was asking God for a miracle. I wanted to expect the impossible. I wanted God to make a way out of no way. And God answered my cries in that wilderness and led me back to the Unity Church. And it saved me. It was where I was supposed to be. I learned more about myself and my divine purpose and what it is I was supposed to do, and more about spiritual discernment. It talked about spiritual discernment and asking a series of reflective questions about what seems like a simple, basic question, right? What is mine to do? So I ask you, could you, would you go deep within and listen to the call of the Spirit for your divine purpose? Would you, could you quiet the busyness of your life and sit still and listen to what the higher power, the Holy Spirit, God, universe, divine mind, whatever you call it, would you take the time to ask that simple question? What is mine to do talks about some reflective questions. And it starts with, what is up? What is an area in your life that is calling you, beckoning for you? Or maybe if something feels broken or feels off, you want to do something more. It then goes on to ask, what is important to me? What are your guiding principles? What do you align with? What are your values? What is in the way? What is keeping you from walking in your divine purpose? Is it fear? Doubts? Maybe asking the question, what will other people think? What will you release in order to do that? Then you step back and you ask the question, what is the truth? What is the truth about me? Who am I? What are my divine gifts? What are my skills? Then you start to hone in on the question. Allow one simple question to rise to the surface. Don't analyze it. Don't overcomplicate it. Just sit still in the abiding presence and allow that question to surface. Then you say, what is the guidance? You ask, what guidance am I receiving? What thoughts, images, songs, what is coming up for you? What does it look like? So you go to the next question and say, now what does it look like? Expand your senses. Allow everything to come in. What is inspiring you? What are you doing in the moment? What anchors the experience? We talked about how we keep our minds so busy. So when you leave this moment of meditation and prayer and sitting in the divine presence, you want to ask, how can I anchor this experience so I can remember it? What comes to mind? Then you hone in and say, what is mine to do? You ask the question. You come up with specific, measurable actions in order to move forward and manifest it. Are you high on a mountaintop? Or are you in the valley? Are you somewhere on the journey? Are you having a dark night of the soul? Would you, could you stop running in the busyness of your lives and ask that simple question, which really isn't so simple? What is mine to do? So today, I ask you, could you, would you go deep inside and listen for that still small voice beckoning you, calling you to step into your higher purpose? What is mine to do?